Yo, what's going on, guys? So in this video, I'm going to be watching a wholesaler who is kind of like, he's supposed to be like showing that wholesalers aren't a scam or whatever, and that it's legal, which it is legal and all of that. But I made a whole video on why it's all bullcrap and they're full of crap. And so I found this video. This video just popped up on my feed, and I was like, oh, I should do a review. And this is a real-time review. I have not watched this video. So we're gonna jump in, and I'm gonna skip ahead from his like intro, and then we'll just jump into it and see what we think. Okay, so let's hop in here, and I'm gonna give you real-time feedback. Okay, I have not watched this video.
Is wholesaling real estate illegal? The simplest answer to that is no. And with that being said,
He's
there
right, it's
are
not
four
illegal.
different areas that regulate wholesaling. We have 3 states and 1 city. The 3 states are Illinois, Louisiana, and Oregon. The 1 city is Philadelphia. And in fact, I've done an in-depth video on the city of Philadelphia and how they started regulating wholesaling that I'll link up at the top for you, that you can check out right after you watch this video. In short, the city of Philadelphia is requiring you to have a license to operate as a wholesaler, just like the state of Illinois. Now, as far as Oregon and Louisiana, they placed restrictions on it as well. So it is
Good for
regulated
them.
in these particular areas. It's not illegal, it's just regulated. Now, an additional area, an additional city that regulated not the act of wholesaling, but the way.
Can I just point out that this caller is driving me insane right now? Like, bro, fold that bad boy down, man. I mean, let's smooth let's smooth it out. All right. We'll keep going. We'll keep going.
People market to motivated sellers is the city of Atlanta. Now, in Atlanta, if you market to a property owner more than 1 time over a course of 6 months, then you can get fined for marketing to that particular property owner. So the way you market for wholesale deals, the way you market your real estate business in the city of Atlanta is regulated, but not the act of wholesaling itself. So is wholesaling real estate a...
So I'm curious, when he says marketing, what I suspect that means is you're not allowed to lie like all these jokers are doing, where they go to people and they basically say, hey, I want to buy your property and I want to pay cash, which is all the lie, right? Like, they have no intention of buying your property. They don't have the cash, or they have no intention of paying cash. And so it's going to be basically all started from a premise of a lie, because if they were to go to you and be transparent and authentic and tell you the truth, which is like, hey, I want to basically help you sell your property, and I want you to agree to a number that's a lot less than what it's worth, and then I'm going to take this contract that I get you under, and I'm gonna go I'm gonna go assign this contract out. I'm gonna basically gonna go sell this contract for a fee to someone who's a legitimate buyer for still less than what it's worth. And I'm gonna make that in between, right? So if your property is worth 200K and I get you to agree to 120 or 140,000, let's say $140,000, right? And I get you under contract, then I have rights to that contract, and I'm going to take this contract, and I'm basically going to go find someone who's willing to pay more than that $140,000, and whatever more I can get them to pay is the spread I get to make as an assignment fee. So if I find someone willing to pay 160, which is very reasonable, and that's still 40K less than what it's worth, equity on the market, what you can refinance it for or resell it for, whatever, right? They're getting to basically buy it for 40K less than what it's worth, but I've got you, they're buying it for 160, but I've agreed with you to buy it from you for 140. And so that 20K is the spread, because I'm not buying it. And so I just make 20K for like a couple phone calls. Boom. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going. It's crazy.
Scam. Well, let's look at the definition of a scam together. It's a fraudulent or deceptive act or operation. So let me give you an example. If you're a wholesaler and you're talking to a person who wants to sell their house, they need to get out as quickly as possible, and they're willing to sell at a discounted price, and you negotiate a price that's suitable for you and the seller, and you decide that you want the deal, but you go...
So you're taking advantage of someone in a tough situation who's like, what he's talking about is he's talking about a vulnerable person who is highly distressed, who's, the bank's breathing down their neck, they're about to have a foreclosure, they're uninformed, right? Maybe their parent passed away or a family member passed away and they've inherited a property they did not expect to have and it needs to be liquidated per the will or the courts or whatever. So you're in this situation where you don't know what it's worth, yeah, and you need to move forward. So I mean, let's keep going.
Ahead and you start marketing their house without the contract, then you're operating from a fraudulent standpoint. Or on the flip side of that, let's say you do have a contract on a property and you find a cash buyer that's willing to purchase that contract from you, and you take an earnest money deposit and you decide to sign a contract with that cash buyer, but then there's another buyer that comes along and you collect an earnest money deposit from them, and then you collect from someone else. Now you're operating as a scam. Once you collect an earnest money deposit from a buyer, you should not collect earnest money from other buyers, because now you have a solid deal on this one. There's a fine line that you definitely don't want to step.
He's not wrong about these things, but he's avoiding the main point. And also, yes, so like if here's the seller, right? And so you're the middleman, you're the first wholesaler. And so you give that person earnest money and get them under contract, right? So what I have seen happen is, double and triple and quadruple closings, right? So what happens is so you then assign this contract that you're under to buy the home with the seller, and you assign that contract out to someone else who's, and so sometimes that's not the final buyer yet. So you got three parties now, right? You got the seller, you've got yourself, the wholesaler who's under contract, and then you've assigned that contract out to another buyer. Well, sometimes that's not the final buyer either. They're another wholesaler. And I've seen this when I was running a title company where that third person who that wholesaler might think is a buyer, they get that wholesaler under contract and they assign that contract out to another buyer. I've actually seen this done where it's like seller, wholesaler, 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 wholesaler. And that final, like fourth or fifth wholesaler ended up not being able to find an actual final buyer, and the whole deal fell through. And now we've got like 4 or 5 wholesalers, all with earnest money in the game, all with very convoluted agreements and assignments that say, I get my earnest money back, blah, 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 blah. And it was a nightmare. We had to get the underwriting involved, multiple attorneys involved, because you've got constant conflicting assignments where all of these, wholesalers basically like had indefinite option periods and they want their earnest money back, blah, 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 blah. And there was basically a disagreement on, what assignment takes priority, the first one, the second one, the third, the last one, whatever, right? So, again, what he's saying is not necessarily untrue. He's talking about if you were, to get a seller under contract and then you go and as a wholesaler, you're marketing to like multiple people at the same time and you're collecting all of these different earnest monies. Once you assign it out to another buyer or another wholesaler, you're done, right? Like you have to step back. You've assigned that thing out. You can't keep assigning it out multiple times just to make money off this earnest money. That would be fraud for sure. So he hasn't said anything wrong yet. I'm just waiting to see if he's going to actually get to the premise of how you actually conduct business to begin with, which is just, scammy, it's shady, it's based on lies, okay? Although it's not illegal. Let's see if he gets to that part.
Step on or step over when it comes to operating your business. You want to be above board with everything, and you want to communicate everything so that every party involved in the transaction knows exactly what's going to happen next. And don't take money from somebody if you don't intentionally want to sell the property to them. Next common question that comes up a lot is real estate investors or wholesalers are stealing equity from homeowners. Now, is that really the case? Well, let's look at it from a logical
Yes,
standpoint.
they
Let's
are.
say I wanted to purchase a new vehicle. I wanted to purchase a new car, right? And I go down to the car dealership. You have two different buildings. You have a new car dealership and you have a used car dealership. The new car dealership might be higher in price for a similar vehicle. The used car dealership might have one that's 1 year older and runs perfectly fine. Am I going to pay the same price for a used vehicle that I would for a new vehicle? The answer is absolutely not. When you're looking at real estate, am I going to pay the same amount of money for a house that needs a tremendous amount of work that I would for a house that doesn't need any work? The answer is no. If I know I'm buying this property and I'm going to have to put work into this property, then fair market value for that property is what I determine that price to be. Versus buying a house that doesn't need any work, chances are I'm going to pay top dollar. On the flip side of that, it's up to the seller if they want to accept the offer or not. So you're not twisting anybody.
Okay, so yeah, he's putting all the blame on the seller. And just to be clear, this example of, I have to put money into the property, that is the exception, not the rule. 90% of all, when I ran a title company for 5+ years, 90% of every wholesale deal that was like a double or triple closing that I did as an escrow officer, they didn't renovate at all. They didn't do what he's talking about. So he's using this example of like, oh, I'm gonna have to put money in it, so I need you to sell it for me to me for less, right? But like that's oftentimes a lie. That's oftentimes a lie. Often they don't even renovate. They don't even need to, right? Because they're just gonna flip that contract immediately to another person, to another buyer or another wholesaler, and make that spread. So the example he's using is a typical strategy that they come into to basically get you to wiggle down on price, so they now have more wiggle room. Because chances are, if you wiggle down enough, they're not even going to renovate because they don't need to. They have you agreed to so far less than what it's actually worth as it is without any improvements made that they can just flip this contract and make that spread. Okay? So, I mean, this is a very strategic argument he's making, and I'm gonna call bullcrap on that. Now, yeah, I mean, but that's anybody. That's like any regular buyer. You don't need to sell to the whole point is if this guy was gonna like buy the home and own it for a couple of years and make some renovations like a regular person, okay, yeah, well, it's like, yeah, you're gonna come in and you're gonna wiggle them down. Hey, I'm gonna have to spend maybe 10 or 20 or $15,000 to renovate. But most of the time, they're so far below what the home is actually valued at. It doesn't. It's not a good argument. It's like if the home is worth 200K as it sits, and it needs a lot of work, but it's still worth 200K, right? And we can like we've done our due diligence, we've done CMAs, we've looked at other homes that are just as in disrepair, and let's say this home is still worth 200K as it sits. Yeah, it needs a lot of work, but because of the area, because of the square footage, whatever, it's the bones are good. It's a good home to put some money in. It's worth 200K, right? If you got to renovate, realistically, how much work does this thing need? If it needs new floor, new paint, new appliances, you don't need granite countertops. You don't need brand new cabinetry. Maybe you just paint it. Maybe you put some new light fixtures in. It gets a new oven. It gets a new fridge, right? It gets new floor throughout the house. It gets, but everything else works. It's just old and outdated. You don't need to spend, $50,000. You can probably get away with 10, maybe $20,000 tops, and make major renovations for that. This thing's like good and livable and up to date, right? But that's not what these guys are. They want way bigger margins, because they want to make 5, 10, 15, 20, $40,000 of spread. This is not a good argument.
Arm, you're not forcing anybody to accept your offer. If the seller is agreeable to accept your offer and they know they have other options out there.
Yeah, so if you decide to accept this offer, that's your fault. That's what he's saying. Because he knows these offers are lowball offers. These are not good offers. He said, well, if you accepted it, that's on you as the seller. Full of crap, bro. These guys are full of crap.
That they can go to in order to be able to sell their property for more money, then I don't see anything wrong with you negotiating a lower price. You're not stealing equity when you're operating as a wholesaler.
That's exactly what you're doing. That's exactly what you're doing. The entire premise is you're stealing equity. Because if you were offering them, right, if a wholesaler finds someone and the home is worth $150,000, right, they can't offer you $150,000 because there's no room to make money, right? There's no room to make money, right? Because what they're going to do is they're going to take that assigned contract or take that contract and assign it out to someone else. That's the entire premise. And if they can't assign it out to someone else for more, I mean, I guess maybe if you were going to say, hey, this home's worth 150 and it's in a really nice neighborhood though, and it could be worth $300,000, which is, that's quite a stretch. If I put, let's say if I put $50,000 into it, right? So now I'm in it 200K, but I think I can sell it for 300K. Okay, great. And so in that situation, I'll throw him some flowers. I'll try to agree with him on that. And I'll try to give some leeway here. But that's rarely the case. That's rarely the case. Like and again, you would have to close on that home as the wholesaler. You would have to buy it. You would be the final buyer, which I don't think I've ever seen. I've never seen a wholesaler be the final buyer. They always assign out. They always assign out because it's so much easier and simpler to just make that spread. You know, I've even seen them assign it out just to make like $4,000, a quick $4,000. You know, it's like they find a home for 150K, they find someone willing to pay, you know, $154,000, and they assign it out to them, and they make an easy $4,000 and they move on, right? Because most of these guys are not buying homes. They're not in the market of buying homes. So, you know, this guy, he's not giving you the full. If he were to tell you what he's doing and you were to see behind the scenes what I'm telling you, you would be like, okay, yeah, these guys are full of crap.
Or real estate investor in general. Next question. Is wholesaling real estate a get rich quick scheme? The people who say that don't understand the amount of work that goes into wholesaling real estate. It can literally take months to get a deal. Wholesaling real estate takes a tremendous amount of work. Sometimes it takes a tremendous amount of time to get it right. Now,
Yeah, because you have to find someone in such a vulnerable position to agree to an asinine deal for this whole thing to work. That's the point. You are preying on vulnerable people who, again, have to agree to so much less than what the value of their home is for you to be able to construct a deal so you can make money. So it's like you're spending months sometimes, you know, like searching high and low for the right candidate, the right victim, basically, who is in such a dire need and in such a vulnerable position. You know, in all the scenarios I've given in other videos, like, you know, you've inherited a property and your family passed away and you're mourning, you know, you weren't expecting to get this property and it needs to be liquidated per like a will or something like that, or a probate. You know, maybe you are, you know, 2 months behind and the bank's breathing down your back. And so you're freaking out, right? You're in this and you don't know what the home's worth. You haven't really done a research. You haven't, you know, reached out to a real estate agent and done like a CMA, a cumulative market analysis. Like, you know, at most maybe you looked at Zillow and, you know, this guy's gonna come in and go, oh, that's Zillow, you know, you can't trust Zillow, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, oh, I'm paying cash, so, you know, you're gonna need to work with me on price, when none of that's freaking true. They're not paying cash. You know, it's, again, man, this is all sleazy bullcrap.
for some people, yes, you can get paid really quickly, but majority of people don't have certain skill sets. They got to learn these skill sets. And as you get better at developing skills, that's how you become better at getting paid a lot quicker as a real estate investor.
At scamming people. Get better at scamming people.
So that leads me to this question. Are real estate gurus scammers for teaching wholesaling? The simple answer to that is no. Now, I don't consider myself to be a real estate guru. I've been educating real estate investors for 15 years. I've been investing in real estate for 20 years. I do have courses. I do have coaching programs and things like that we.
Of course he has courses. So of course it's okay. Like, oh my God. Again, man, you're teaching someone to make money. Like, my argument is not that you can't make money doing this. My argument is this the way you want to make your money, right? Is this how you want to make your money? The whole premise is I need someone to agree. Here's the home value. Here's what the home is worth. I need someone to agree to less so I can extract that equity. That's the only way you get paid as a wholesaler. Otherwise, you're an investor, right? If you're just like the examples he's using where, oh, I'm going to have to renovate, blah, 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 blah. That rarely happens, man. You know, it's like you're not a wholesaler. Wholesaling is where you flip the contract to another buyer or another wholesaler who's going to flip the contract, right? Because if you were buying homes and you're the final buyer, and then you spend 6 months, 3 months, a year pumping money into that home, renovating it, and then you relist this property on and you sell it on the market, you're not a wholesaler anymore. You're a investor and a home flipper. That's a different thing. So that argument does not apply to this. Like again, if this guy's wholesaling, right? These strategies where, oh, I've got to pump money into the home. Yeah, but like then you're not a wholesaler. You're an investor. You're a home flipper where you actually buy the home and you hold the home and you spend time and money renovating and improving the home. So then you can go back to the market, relist the home and sell it. Okay? That's not what this guy's talking about. This guy is a wholesaler, right? He is going to be flipping the contract so he can make quick, easy money on that spread. The entire like he's doing this the entire conversation. He's using these very nuanced kind of arguments and trying to paint himself in the picture of like an investor or a flipper when that's not the case at all. And we all freaking know it. This guy's full of crap. This guy's full of crap.
Provide as a service. When we're looking at it from a bird's eye view and we're looking at all of the real estate gurus out there teaching people on YouTube, teaching people on Instagram, teaching people on Facebook and other social platforms, TikTok, think about it like this. When I first started investing in real estate, information wasn't readily available like it is today. Today, with the power of social media, we have a lot of people that think everything is a scam. And unfortunately, the people that think everything is a scam are usually broke. The reason why they're broke.
So the fact that, if by scam you mean you can't make money, well, then I agree with him. It's not a scam. You can definitely make money doing this, right? The problem is, my point is after explaining how this works, how you are definitely stealing people's equity. There's no way around it. You need to get them to agree to sell the home for less than what it's worth. That difference is their equity. That's their equity. All right. So, you know, as an agent, for example, a lot of people have stigmas and they look at agents and they don't like agents and they think agents are overpaid. But the fact of the matter is the commission I'm getting paid for, I'm adding value. I'm listing the property. I'm paying for professional photography. You get a really expensive sign in the front yard, right? It goes up at marketing, advertising. I put that thing on MLS, Zillow, Realtor.com. I host open houses. I negotiate on your behalf, right? On top of all the marketing, it's like there's so much going on. The contract negotiation, I review these contracts with my clients, right? I explain things to them. I make sure we're agreeing to the best offer possible. I negotiate the best terms. I put their interest first, all of those things. I've negotiated my commission, right? Like down so that I can make sure my clients get the best deal possible. Again, it's like there is so much value added. There's so much work. I'm almost 7 months in on a deal right now. It's almost a $1.6 million deal. I have been working for almost 7 months on this deal, which I'm going to do a whole video about. I've added ridiculous amounts of value. I think I did 12 open houses over 7 months. I mean, I've negotiated, I fielded calls, emails, I've reviewed so many contracts. There's so much. I've dealt with all the emotional, roller coaster of my clients explaining things. I've worked with everyone from the inspector to the appraiser to the bank. Right now we're in the process of clearing title, so I'm working with the title company. We're working with heirs. We're working with a judge. I mean, there's so much going on right now, right? And this deal would have fallen apart already. Like I basically was able to negotiate a 31-day extension because we were supposed to close. Today's January, whatever today is, January something. We were supposed to close on the 5th, and the deal was going to die. And I was able to reach out to the buyer, negotiate, calm them down, get them back to the table, and buy us another full month of time for us to be able to basically get done what we need to get done to sell this property. You know, I mean, the buyer wanted to come down and knock down a retaining wall, knock down the backyard fencing so they could get a machine in to do soil sampling testing. And I told them no, because I know what my clients' interests are, and we're not going to allow that to happen and start tearing up the property before we close and get paid. I mean, there's all these things I'm doing behind the scenes that my clients never even see. They never even know about that conversation. I basically got that phone call and was like, no. I didn't even need to call my clients. I already know what my clients want. I've been dealing with my clients for almost 7 months. I know I don't need to call them. So again, man, my point is there's lots of value added, even from, agent, lender, all these people that are a part of this industry that are paid, right? Appraisers and inspectors, roofers, home repairs guys, blue collar guys, plumbers, electricians, you name it, right? They're all providing a service, right? They're all providing a product. And my point is these guys are not.
Broke is because they're pessimistic. They don't look at the glasses half full, they look at the glasses half empty. And when you look at the glass as half empty on everything and you question everything and you haven't tried it out for yourself, then chances are you're not going to put yourself in a position that's going to allow you to make the kind of money in abundance that you could make if you were more optimistic in your life or your business in general. So when it comes to the question if real estate gurus are a scam, I want you to remember that real estate gurus don't have to provide you with any information. I've seen people provide free information on YouTube and they don't ever sell a course. They don't ever sell a coaching program or anything like that. And they've been considered scammers. How can they be scammers if they're trying to provide you with information that's going to help you better yourself? Think about it like this. Most people who go to college, pretty much everybody who goes to college has to pay for it. Do you look at college as a scam? And really, college can be considered the biggest scam because what you're going to do is pay tons of money to go to college, which is ultimately going to teach you how to go ahead and work for somebody else rather than work for yourself, versus a real estate guru or
I mean, that's probably one of the few things him and I will agree on is college is, for the most part, a scam. I mean, STEMs is, being whittled away, but those are still relatively safe. I mean, you really got to do your due diligence on what AI is going to threaten, what jobs are going to exist in 5 to 10 years. But like the liberal arts, general studies, all of these things, man, the liberal sciences, these things are all scams where you pay tons of money, and it's very hard to, and becoming more difficult by every day, where it's difficult to, quickly get your money back. I mean, I see so many Gen Zers right now coming out of college that cannot get jobs, even the good degree jobs. It's like they're struggling. So I would agree with him on that college can definitely be a big scam. It's lost a lot of the value. It used to provide you with a lot of security, coming out with a job, with lots of good income. When you used to spend tens, 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 on college, and you could come out making six figures immediately, you could quickly pay off that. But now, I mean, I see people coming out with six figures, and that's like normal, 100K, 80K, 90K. I mean, sometimes it's like 150, 200, $300,000. And these people are struggling to find jobs. It's like you spend $160,000 on 5, 6, 7 years of college, and you come out and, it's like, what, you get a $60,000 a year job starting off for the first couple of years. It's like, how are you going to pay this off, man? It's wild. So I do agree with him on that. But I think the point he is missing is I just don't think these wholesale gurus, I don't like the real estate guru. There are real estate gurus out there that are not teaching you about wholesaling. Maybe they're teaching you about home flipping, right? Maybe they're teaching you about how to be an investor, right? These are valuable things within the industry that you can add value to the market. It's like you buy a home for what it's worth, or maybe slightly under what it's worth, but not like ridiculous amounts less. It's like if the home's worth 160 and it's kind of dilapidated, it's like, okay, hey, I'm going to give you 130, 140, whatever, right? Like I need some wiggle room because I need to put 20, 30, $40,000 in it. But then I'm going to turn around and I'm going to go sell this home for like $250,000. So it's like I'm in it, $200, I'm in it like what, 150, $160,000, and I'm going to turn around and I'm going to go sell it for 250, and I'm going to make like a 80, you got to pay closing cost. So it's like I'm going to make maybe like 70, $80,000. And if I do those renovations within 2 to 3 months, making 60, 70, $80,000 in 2 or 3 months is a pretty good deal. It's hard work, but that's what investing is. And you're adding value. You're bringing a home back to market that's in better condition, and you're selling it for what it's worth. There is none of this like stealing from, the stealing equity thing is crazy. That's true. Like, he's just not right about that. Like, that's the whole basis of how these people make money in wholesaling.
Real estate educator, they're going to teach you how to create a business for yourself. Now, will it cost you? Sometimes, absolutely. But that doesn't necessarily make their services a scam. People pay for...
He's lumping himself in with legitimate stuff, though. Like, there are legitimate businesses and real estate gurus on YouTube and the internet that are teaching things that are legitimate. My argument is his section is wholesaling. Wholesaling is ridiculous, man. It's not. Like, yeah, it's not.
Speed. People pay for implementation, and people will pay in order to be able to skip the learning curve. And that's exactly what you pay real estate gurus for. They're looking to have you invest in order to buy their time. Their time is precious because they're taking time away from their families so that they can help you.
What is this, like a pitch? Are you just selling yourself? Like, it's like some dude selling his courses. Oh yeah, they're not a scam. It's like, do you sell courses? It's like a little biased, maybe, don't you think?
You be able to do the same thing. And the answer to that question is almost always going to be a no, given the people that I do know in this industry. And yes, there are some bad apples out there. I'm not talking about the bad apples. I'm talking about the people who really care about your education. But just remember, it's up to you to put in the work. Don't rely on other people. Use them to be able to get the resources you need to be able to change your life. So when it comes to the question, is wholesaling real estate a scam? The answer is absolutely not.
False. It is. All right, let's look at the comments, and then I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to give you my final thoughts. Great information. This is important. Y'all might not understand this. No. Okay, is it unethical to use a seller-side HUD so the seller won't see your profit? Okay, so this is my whole point, right? So this right here, right? What this is talking about is when you assign the contract out to an actual buyer, right? What you don't want to see is you don't want the seller who agreed to sell it to you for so much, right? They don't want to see that it's actually selling for much more and you're making a fee, right? And this is not illegal, but this is my point. This is unethical, in my opinion. This is why it's scammy, right? You're hiding it from the seller, right? Because the seller's going to get pissed, right? If they find out that you lied, right? You lied. Hey, I want to buy your property. I will give you cash, right? Chances are it's not cash, and you're not buying the property. And then once you get them under contract, again, like I'll just beat this horse to death. Like, you go assign this contract out to an actual buyer. If you got the seller to agree to 140, and then you go sell it to someone for 160, you assign the contract out to someone, right? There's on the statement, right? You're gonna make $20,000. And what they're talking about here is they want to hide it. They want to do a seller side only HUD or CD. Most people call them CDs now, closing disclosures. That doesn't show the buyer side, because on the final buyer side, it's not going to show you the wholesaler. It's going to show the actual buyer. And then it's going to show a fee that you, the wholesaler, are making. That again, the seller is not aware of any of this. It's complete scammy. And they would be pissed if they saw that. So this is important. This right, and he's saying no, which he's not wrong. It's not, it's not illegal. I would argue it is unethical. And again, if the seller find out about this before closing, they would blow the whole deal up. They're going to be like, wait, what? Crazy. Okay, so let's wrap this up. So, I mean, I think I've debunked this guy pretty well. It is, it is scammy. You are still in the equity, right? Again, if you were, which none of this guy's not doing that, right? If you were completely transparent, and I made this example in another video, right? And you want to be completely honest, and you go to someone and you're a wholesaler, right? Because the typical strategy that these guys are going to teach you in these classes and videos is you have to go to someone and you have to find the right kind of person who's in the right desperate vulnerable position, and you got to get them to agree to sell the home for less. And the way you do that is you go, hey, I want to buy your home. Lie, not true. Let's get under contract. And then you go, hey, I need to renovate. I need, and I'm going to pay cash. So I need you to work with me on price. And you wiggle them way down from what you've appraised the value of the home to be. And then you take that contract and you go find an actual buyer who's willing to pay for more, right? And I use the numbers of an example, right? Let's say the homes were 200K and you get them to agree to sell it to you for 140, okay? Now you have wiggle room. And then you go find a buyer. Let's say you only sell it to them for only 160. That buyer is still saving 40K, right? Because the homes were 200. But that wiggle room, the one between the 140 and the 160, that is equity that belongs to the seller that you're extracting, and you make that money. You make 20K. For what? For making like a couple phone calls, convincing the seller to get under contract with you, and then you farm out that contract to a legitimate buyer after you lied and you said you wanted to buy the home. No, you don't. You probably can't. Like half these guys don't even have the cash to do it. And then they say, I want to pay cash. Here's the kicker. There's no buyer yet. They have to go find a buyer who might not even be paying cash. So this whole scenario that has been painted to convince you to agree to sell the home for less. I mean, and he covers his ass in this video. He tells you, if the seller agreed to do it, that's on them. It's like, why would he need to say that? Because he knows. He knows that what they're doing is shady and shitty. Just because it's legal doesn't make it right. And my point is with like the online guru crap is not that you can't make money doing this, but is this how you want to make your money? Where you're constantly lying to people, you're not allowed to be fully transparent, right? And again, you're not adding any value to the market. You're a bottom feeder. Your whole business plan is extracting value from vulnerable, uneducated people that you convince through strategies and talking points and wording things a certain way, that you hunt down and prey upon who are in these tough situations. It is shady. So no, this guy's debunked. I have nothing against this guy. It's like I'm not gonna like. I mean, I think this is a shady business practice, though. I think there's a lot better ways to go make your money. And again, is it illegal? No. But that's not my point. It's like, I mean, I think I've pretty much debunked everything. I mean, aside from the illegal, is it illegal? I mean, I agree. Obviously it's not illegal. They have found loopholes through the legal system to conduct these transactions and be a part of them and mooch off people's equity. My point is it right? Right? Would you want to be on the selling end of this when you could have sold the home for much more? And you were basically, I mean, it's very fraudy, right? Because you've been lied to. That's the whole thing works. I mean, very few people, if you go to them, let's say you're this guy and you're like, oh, I want to be a different wholesaler. And I use this example. I'm going to be transparent, right? You would have to find a seller that you can go to and you go, hey, I want to help. You can't say I want to buy your home. You say, I want to help you sell your home. And they go, okay, how are you going to do that? And you go, well, I've got a bunch of investors and buyers in my pocket, in my network, and I guarantee for the right price, I can get one of them to buy your home. And you go, okay, so what do I need to do? What's your role here? You're like, you're just connecting me to buyers. And I'm like, yeah. It's okay, cool. I might be interested, right? They say I might be interested. And they go, what do we need to do? He goes, oh, well, I need to get you under contract. And they're like, what does that mean? They're like, oh, well, you need to sign a contract to agree to sell me your home. It's like, but you're not buying my home. It's like, yeah, I'm not. But like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that contract and then I'm going to go sell that contract for a fee to one of these actual buyers. And it's like, is that legal? That sounds weird. And it's like, oh yeah, totally legal. Totally, this is called wholesaling. And it's like, okay, so how much do I need to sell it to you for? And, so there's that negotiation. And then you go, oh, well, I need to get it for at least 140. And they're like, okay, so what are you selling it to those guys for? It's like, I don't know yet. I need to go negotiate it. And so they're not going to tell you, right? They're going to say, I don't know yet. Best case. But let's say they're completely transparent. They have an idea, or they have already talked to this buyer and they know what the buyer is willing to pay. So let's go low end, and the buyer is willing to pay, you agree to sell it to me for 140. I'm not buying it. And I'm going to sell it to him. He's going to buy it for 150. And then they go, okay, wait, so you're going to make 10 grand? What? Like, you didn't do anything hardly. You made like 2 phone calls. You called me and then you called that guy. And then you're basically not involved anymore. Like, I'm selling it to this guy and I'm paying you 10 grand. It's like, what the hell? It's like on $150,000, just for an example. And I actually do things. I'm a real estate agent, right? Let me do the math. So on $150,000 top end, at the total, like the top end commission, because commission's negotiable. I don't always make like a 3% commission. That would be, I think it'd be like $4,500. Let me see. Yeah, it'd be $4,500. I'm making less than half of what that wholesaler, and that's on the low end. I've seen these wholesalers make tens of thousands of dollars. So I can't explain this any better. I mean, if it's not obvious to you that these guys are full of crap and they are scammy, and it is there's a reason why places are making it illegal or marketing practices illegal, where even Trek here in Texas is requiring disclosure now, which these wholesalers are still not doing. And they're trying to like squeeze in language that you didn't see on custom contracts, that they didn't verbally tell you, and then you just sign it, and then they go, oh yeah, I disclosed it, it's on the contract, you didn't even see it, but it's there. So I mean, the examples the examples he's using is he's painting himself as an investor when that's not the case. Like, oh, I have to put money into the home. Rarely do these guys put any money into the home, right? They're just using that as a talking point to negotiate you down. Generally, the entire premise of what these guys are doing and how they function is they get you under contract, they sell that contract off to an actual buyer, and they make the difference and extract your equity. That's it. That's how this works for them. So yeah, no, I think I have thoroughly debunked this guy. Everything he said is, for the most part, not true or worded in a very scammy way. And he's not clearly explained how they're interacting. And so I think there's a lot of good guys out there, a lot of good young women and good young men who are hungry, and they're looking for starting their own business, and how do I make some money? And they stumble upon this stuff and they pay all these fees, and as they start to really dig into the nitty-gritty, they start to find out that this is a very dishonest, scammy way of making money that basically requires you to lie and not be transparent. Otherwise, no one is going to agree to these terms for the most part. I mean, maybe one in 100, someone's just like, okay, sure, I'll sell my home to you for less than what it's worth, and you can go make all this money for basically doing almost nothing. Maybe they're out there, maybe they do that, but I mean, yeah. So there you go. Yeah, this guy's full of crap. Let's see. I mean, sorry, dude. I don't have anything against you, man. Glad you've made some money and all of that. But I mean, dude's got a lot of subscribers too, bro. So, I mean, let's see what his videos look like, and then I'll wrap this thing up.
Around this time every year, I release a new video regarding gold selling.
So, I mean, it looks like he's found other ways that are legitimate. Again, I'm not critiquing this guy because I'm not saying he's like a bad. I mean, if you push wholesaling, I don't think you're a great person. But like farmland, owning land, growing money, some of these things are all totally legitimate. You know, building a house. Yeah, man. I mean, some of this stuff is totally probably really good stuff. Rental loan hack. He's probably talking about cash out refinancing your rental properties or something. I don't know. Um, some of this stuff is like legitimate, I'm sure. So I don't think all his content is bad, but you know, I do not think he was honest about wholesaling. And I think when he has all this other good content, I don't know why he wouldn't have done what I'm doing, which is come out and said, hey man, you should watch out for wholesalers. They're scammy. And I guess the only reason I can think of is probably because he's done wholesaling or does wholesaling, and maybe that's how he got his start, because wholesaling is one of those things where it takes almost no money and you're basically, you know, scamming people out of their equity. Eventually, after you've closed enough deals and been able to extract enough equity, you get enough money in the bank. Now you can go do some of these more legitimate, you know, transparent, you know, things where you're not taking necessarily advantage of anybody. But wholesaling, I mean, the entire premise is you got to take advantage of the seller. That's the entire premise, man. So, I mean, yeah, I got nothing against this guy, but yeah, man, I mean, yeah, wholesaling is full of crap. It's scammy, and the video he made is not honest at
Is
all, in my opinion,
wholesaling
and he knows it because he's done it. He knows it. So, all right, y'all, that's my review of this. Is wholesaling real estate a scam? Yes, absolutely. The entire, you know, and the problem is that most people don't have a thorough enough understanding of what that looks like, even regulators and stuff like that. So they you know, and they're starting to catch on. Obviously, some of these states he talks about have regulated it, um, made the marketing, you know, illegal. Where you can't, like, again, because a lot of these guys are lying. They have to, you know, otherwise no one would agree to this stuff. So, yeah, that's it. I'll wrap it up. I'm beating a dead horse at this point. So, yeah, wholesaling scam. This guy, I mean, he's probably got some other legitimate videos talking about other things within the real estate industry that are totally legitimate. I'm sure I haven't watched them, but just based on this one video, yikes. Not a transparent, honest way of making money. And I highly recommend you find a legitimate way where you're adding value to the market. You're providing a real service, a real product, where you don't have to take, you know, it's like, I want someone to agree to pay me. You know, I want the value to be agreed upon. You know, that whole comment that we looked at in the comment section, this whole thing, is it unethical to use a seller side HUD so the seller won't see your profit? The whole point is he can't let the seller know he's making a profit, right? He's not actually buying the home, you know, because then the seller would be pissed, right? So it's like this whole premise is based on distrust, dishonesty, no transparency. You know, I mean, basically, you're getting the title company to close and not show half of the transaction to the seller. The seller is going to see a statement that makes it look like the final buyer is this guy, the wholesaler, when that's not the case. There's another statement. It's called a double close. There's another statement that, you know, this guy sees where it's him as the seller going to the final buyer. And they make this like fee of tens of thousands of dollars sometimes. So, yeah, man. Yeah, it's a scam. They're full of crap. It's full of crap, man. So this guy's full of crap. This video, he does not explain this in thorough. He definitely bobs and weaves, words it in a way to try to make it legitimate. That's my 2 cents. Let me know what you think in the comments. Uh, this is bull crap. That's my 2 cents. All right, y'all. I'll catch y'all later. Peace. Stay blessed. Love y'all. Trying to protect y'all. Trying to look out for y'all. These people are scamming y'all out of your money for these classes, because so many people find out later on that, like, oh, I don't feel good about making money this way. I was looking for a better way to feel good about making my money, and this requires me to lie. This requires me to be, you know, to have low transparency. And I've already spent all this money on classes and, you know, an Excel spreadsheet with an algorithm, and, you know, all these talking point classes where I'm starting to realize, like, I'm having to like word it in ways that are very disingenuous, that are pretty much lying, and I don't feel good about this, and I've wasted my money. Or you're a seller and you're getting screwed. I mean, if you're the seller, you're getting screwed because you could have sold it for more, flat out. There's nothing else to it. So there you go. That's my 2 cents. I hope y'all found this informative. I hope you use this information to protect yourself. Watch out for these guys. All right. Peace.